So hi everyone, you know I'm General Director of San Diego Opera, David Bennett, and I'm thrilled to be having a conversation with the world-renowned mezzo-soprano Stephanie Blythe, who really needs no introduction, but I know you all know her. But this is Stephanie's next season, which we're going to talk about, Stephanie's fourth time in San Diego. She was here times in 1 year because you sang
Yes.
Mass and Verdi Requiem,
Yes.
and then returned for a recital.
Yes, I did. That's
I
right.
think all in the year of 2014. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Yep.
Yeah. Did you know that on the set, you may know this, on the set of Masked Ball, which you were involved with,
Hmm.
our current, she's no longer, but our former board chair and the woman who was instrumental in saving the Opera Carolasier and her husband Jay Merritt got married on that set. They had their wedding. They were on the set of Masked Ball for their nuptials. Isn't that nice?
That is lovely. And
It's
it was
great. Yeah.
So it was very appropriate. That's lovely.
Good. So today we're going to have a little conversation, and I'm going to ask Stephanie some questions. We thought it would be fun to let Stephanie ask me some questions and go back and forth. I'll start off here. What is your favorite memory of the time that you've been here at San Diego?
There are a lot. I mean, for one thing, coming to sing in San Diego the first time was my first time to San Diego. So that was really exciting. And one of my favorite moments, I think, was, walking out and standing on the balcony of the apartment that we were staying in, and looking out and seeing the ocean. As I am a lady who lives in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, we see a great many lakes, but not one outside of my back window, and certainly not the ocean. So that was really wonderful. But I think my favorite memory is not really a memory. It's a sense of community and a sense of belonging that this company engenders, and certainly engendered in me from the moment I was there. And then beyond all of that, when you are a new artist in a house that's on the precipice of, death, let's be honest. And then all of a sudden you see a community gathering itself together to say, no, we need this company. That's something really amazing to witness that, but also to be a part of something that helps to sustain it. Was really remarkable, and I've never seen it before. And I loved that. I think that's my favorite memory of the company, quite frankly.
It's terrific. That's the reason that I chose to put my name in the ring for the new general director, because I was living in New York and on the board of Opera America and saw all of this happening. And I thought, where else are you going to have an opportunity where a community has said, we want this to be here? And what an opportunity for a leader to come in and say, how do we make this company with the community? Yeah.
Absolutely. And just what a testimony.
Yeah.
What a testimony to the company itself, to the people who are working there. And it's not worth hashing over, because there certainly was plenty of stuff written about it at the time. But I felt, when you travel, and this very well from your own life, when you travel around to do your work and you're always someplace different, it's a very difficult job, because you set down roots, you make friends, you create you have a schedule, you have a life, and then depending on how long the rehearsal performance period is, it's over and you leave, and that's that. And you feel like you have a series of breakups. It feels like a series of breakups. Really good relationship, but it's not you, it's me. I have to leave.
Right.
And it's very painful. But the best part of all of that is when you find yourself in a new family, in a new relationship with a company, and you and they make you feel like you're part of the family, and that you're home. And I think that this company engenders that. It's the reason why artists love to sing there. It's the reason why people who work there love to work there. It's just a really wonderful place.
Thanks. It's true, and it still is that way. So when we have new artists come, they're sort of struck by how they feel immediately part of an embrace family around them, and not just from the company, but from the community, right?
Exactly.
Really,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Terrific. So what? Oh, you want to ask me a question? Let's do that.
Why not? So can you tell me how you? What are your thoughts about the upcoming season?
It's a phenomenal season that I was so proud of putting together, and we were just ready to announce right before COVID, right? So we put the brakes on it, and we're still trying to figure out how the fall in particular is going to work out.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy on Puccini, but you know, who doesn't love it? And it's been 5 years since done, and this company, believe it or not, in the history of the company, has done a Boheme every 5th season.
Wow.
We have a Boheme rhythm that our community actually loves.
Yeah.
And we have a beautiful new production that, you know, an interesting thing that's happening now in the industry is that companies are bartering in a way. So if a production has sort of fulfilled its useful life, if a company, instead of trying to sell it to another company, they'll sometimes just say, if you'll take it and save the cost of disposing of it, it's yours. So we have a production of Boheme that had a good life in Montreal and spent a lot of productions in Canada that we own now. And I'm just so hopeful that we'll be able to get to the Civic Theater.
Yeah.
Of course, Angel, who has, you know, by storm, she made her company debut here as Liu 3 seasons ago. And that was for her. And she's back as Mimi. So I'm about that. I am over the moon about the double bill, unfortunately not triple bill, of the 2 of the 3 Triticos that you're joining us for with another cast. And then we're bringing one of the postponed productions from this year, which is a beautiful production of Barber of Seville that we able back every artist except for one, unfortunately, but everyone else is able to transfer. So we're bringing that back. And then you may know wonderful detours that there's a lot of exciting things, smaller, intimate space, a variety of different things. We are presenting a piece by Beth Morrison, who you may know from New York. Yes. So it's our first foray into presenting a Beth Morrison production here. And we are bringing back a really interesting work that I'm calling it, I market it as an a cappella choral opera. And it's a work that was developed by a theater company in Minneapolis called Allis Calm.
Right.
And it's the same story that the opera Silent Night is about.
Yeah.
And we produced it 3 years ago. Our community loved it. It speaks very much to our community, which has a very, very presence. It is a holiday piece, and the spirit of the story is very important where we are in the world right now. And it's also a cappella. So it's one less thing for us to have to consider about safety, you know? Yeah. So we're bringing that back. So it's a varied season. There's a lot in it, and our audiences are very excited. We still have some things to figure out in the fall, you know, like how and frankly, where we're going to Boheme. We have some conversations with some outdoor venues about producing it outdoors, because October in San Diego is a beautiful time. Yeah. And we're exploring as well. It's a very exciting season. I'm thrilled about it.
That's great. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk more about what you're going to be here, which is thrilling. But before to that, why don't you tell me? It's probably been a while since you've been on stage performing, correct? When was the last time you sang?
The last time I did a performance on stage was my drag show.
Ah,
So that was an American Songbook Lincoln Center presentation.
mhm.
And so for people who don't know, I have an alter ego named Lively Oratonio, who is a dramatic tenor, and I do a cabaret show of rock and roll, and popular song and opera as this character. And so we actually, yeah, that was the last thing I did on stage. And
And that when?
that was the 20th of January,
Yeah.
something around there.
Yeah.
And so it's been a while, but you know, I'm managing. I'm managing.
Are you doing anything? I know you teach, and we could talk about that. But are you doing anything that you personally or professionally that's kind of been an interesting growth of this time?
Well, musically, I've been playing a lot of ukulele and making videos of myself singing ukulele songs on ukulele
I love
and
it.
put Instagram and Facebook. That's how I've been. And one night I'd been spending the day working on learning a new song, and I couldn't get it, and I was trying desperately to film it. Didn't work. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go live on Instagram and play this song. And I ended up doing an hour-and-a-half show. And, you know, taking some requests and just going through my songbooks and which is what I do at night. I just sit and I just play 15, 20 songs and sing. And so that's how I've sort of been scratching that itch.
Awesome.
But I'm spending a lot of time doing research, working on putting together different kinds of surveys of song and getting ready for my classes in the fall. And, you know, I have a lot of different things on my plate now. And it makes me very happy. I'm a much happier performer because at this point in my career, I sing basically what I want to sing.
Mm.
That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. When I was teaching and singing, I remember singing with someone, and my teaching load had expanded, and
Yeah.
adjunct at 3 universities at the same time.
Right.
And I was singing a role near a friend, and she said, and she was a teacher too, and she said, your singing is actually improved. And for her, the big revelation was when you teach, modeling and hearing, you have in your mind's eye the sound to evoke from your student all day.
Right.
And sort of in that mode all the time, right?
Yeah.
I found it to help me as a singer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly energized by the students that I work with. They're unbelievably talented. They're thoughtful. They're generous. They're curious. They're interested in lots of different kinds of music. And we sort of think outside the box at Bard. So that's really where, if we're going to really talk, I think that's where we're going.
Yeah.
It's where we have to get outside the box or we're going to die. And I think that was happening. I think that was happening pre-COVID, don't you?
Absolutely.
We were slowly marching to an evolution in opera, certainly. Mm-hmm. Now the pedal has just been pressed down, and we have to do it now.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very
exciting.
No, I just think it's a very exciting notion. And one of the things that I've been working with the younger generation coming up is making sure that they understand that the future of this industry is got to be put onto the backs of the performers. Mm. Performers have to take a much bigger role. We can't sit and wait for someone to call and say, hey, you're going to be doing this, and this is how much money you're going to be making doing it. Mm-hmm. We can't wait for that anymore.
Yep.
It's about look at Beth Morrison. Perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's about creating projects for yourself. It's about being passionate. It's about being curious. It's about thinking outside the box, but it's also about finding different ways to create community. And I think that that's very much why San Diego Opera is so successful and why you closed your season in the black.
Good. You just read that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so I think we are to tell the stories, the varied stories of the community, and find access points that people can see themselves in our company, right?
You are that David, for my money, that is exactly the sentence that every opera company in this country should be saying right now. That's the sentence. You have to find, the audience needs to find themselves in the opera. That's what's going to keep it alive. You know, opera has been very, we say opera, or over the years, you know, that opera is an elitist art. The problem is that opera has become an apologist for itself. How on earth can something thrive when it's apologizing? What we need to be is not be, I've become allergic to the phrase outreach. I'm sick of the phrase outreach. We should be reaching within. That means the community to be in the opera, not something that we're going out and offering people snippets of things. Well, if you know, here's a taste. Here's your artistic amuse-bouche, but the rest of it is over here for us. Opera only can thrive when the community around it is sitting squarely in the middle of it.
200%.
Right?
Yeah.
That's successful. And we can find ourselves in Aida. We can find ourselves in Boheme or Carmen. We can find ourselves. But if we are not creating art that is community first, that is a communion between us and the art and the audience, it's worthless.
Absolutely.
It's worthless. I mean, we're going way deep here.
No, but it's great. I'm so glad we were right. So, and also, what is going to be successful in San Diego clearly has to be successful in Philadelphia, because they're different communities. So, who is the community of San Diego? How do we create works that they can find themselves in? That's really my job, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's my job as an artist to be the conduit for that. If artists have to recognize they are vessels, you know, and I think there's so much magnificent art waiting to be made. And artists are we will be the vessels that art is served through. But we have to be open to that, and we have to be ready for it, and we have to recognize that. I was just talking to a group of high school kids, and one of the things I said to them is, as you are preparing to go out into the world and become musicians, listen to as much music as you can, and listen to everything. And recognize, if you do that, and David, you're a musical person, right? We create our own musical algorithm, just as human beings. Each of us is our own YouTube, right? So, when you go out and you listen to early music, or you listen to Latin jazz, or you listen to, I mean, my very first listening heart glommed on to Sergio Mendes in Brazil '66.
Love it.
That Sergio Mendes in Brazil '66, Fool on the Hill, is the most important thing I ever listened to in my life, because it woke up my rhythmic mind. It blew my rhythmic mind. And I'm not the same. I'm a different artist because of it. And the more we take in, the more we recognize how everything around us informs and makes something exciting and creative and relatable.
You know, you were talking also, we started this conversation really about the future of opera, where we're going to be. Right?
Yeah.
And when you talk to young singers, I hope they are also observant of what's happening with young composers now, because
Absolutely.
young composers have such a wide influence.
Hmm?
You know the composer Nico Muhly,
Yes,
right?
of course.
So we
At
commissioned a
Boston
work,
Terrier.
right? So I worked with Nico in New York and commissioned a work from him, and I just remember thinking, oh, he has so much in his head, self this unique voice. I mean, he was an Anglican choir boy, and that's absolutely in his compositional style.
Right, right.
Yeah, and he worked with minimalism, and that's in his style, but it's his style. So singers absolutely need to be aware that that's the world that they're going to be moving into, is composers wanting that breadth of expression. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, singers have to take responsibility to connect with composers so that composers understand, the next generation of composers understands how to write for voice.
Oh, absolutely. Don't even get me started. Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing to write for voice,
Mm-hmm.
for one reason only. There's no one instrument.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's not one instrument that matches another.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can write for mezzo-soprano, but how many different mezzo-soprano voices are there? As many as there are mezzo-sopranos.
Yes, exactly.
So understanding, I mean, that's what makes it so fascinating doing work, singing Mozart and being a soprano who sings Mozart. Because you have to think about who that was written for and what kind of voice that was written for.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody today has a voice like that. So what we do is we glean the kind of skill set that we need to be able to sing all of these different styles and all of these different time periods, and to be able to incorporate as much of ourselves into that mix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a really great composer for voice understands that the voice is really, it's a very interesting and very varied ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
when you're writing for a flute concerto, I mean, absolute tone of a flute different from another, but a flute is a flute, and
Yeah.
the range is the same. Not even talking about tessitura, you don't have to really think about that in the same way as you do with the singer, right? So all of that is so unique to composing for a voice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing that's difficult about composing for voices is that you generally, the composers I've spoken to have a particular voice in mind, either because this has been commissioned to write for a particular person, or they have someone in their ears when they're composing.
Mm-hmm.
But if they want something to have legs, it has to be something that's going to be sung by many different kinds of voices.
Yeah.
You know, many different kinds of sopranos or mezzos or tenors or baritones, whatever. And so it's a really unique, brilliant way of thinking. And I think I have said many times before, because I do a lot of contemporary song in my own performing life, but also I have a summer festival up until this last summer where we focus on the music of living composers.
Wonderful.
And I believe we had our 8th season last season. This was going to be our 9th season at Fall Island Vocal Arts Seminar. But I believe with all my heart that we are in a period of unbelievable vocal writing. We have some of the best vocal writing happening in history right now. And it is wonderful to be a part of that, and so exciting. And opera needs to be fed by this. I am waiting for the time where the bulk of a season is opera that's been written within the last 25 years. And then you add something to it from the canon.
The outlier will be a Boheme, right?
Sure. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's where the only thing that we need in order to do that is the audience to feed it. And all that takes is just a little bit of time and energy and us sharing it.
Yeah, exactly right. And for people to have that experience and realize it's not distancing, it's actually, contemporary music is engaging. We have a main stage work that we've just received the final score before workshops. So
Right.
so we have a new commission that's coming to our main stage in probably 21. We have to see how we do with the workshops. But we're also doing quite a bit of new work in the Detour series, which is also becoming an entry point for our audience to say, someone who may not be so comfortable with something on the main stage can test it in a smaller venue and have closer proximity and become comfortable with it, right? And experience it in the other theaters. So we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Now, I want to talk with you about next season.
Right.
Coming here.
Yes.
So I saw you sing the Jack O'Brien Tritico at the Met twice. And once was when I was still living in New York, and it was the premiere season. And you sang in all operas.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw you this past December, I think. It was just this past year, right? Last season?
Yeah, it was last season. Mm-hmm.
So I saw you sing Zita and Principessa and it's just, to begin with, that production is so amazing. Just, it also shows off, it's like what you should see at the Met, because it exploits the potential of that Met stage in so many ways.
It lives, but you know what's beautiful about that piece? It lives in two worlds, that production.
Yeah.
It is grand opera at its very best, but it's intimate as all get out. So you have these gigantic sets, but everything constantly brings the eye in. And the thing that was wonderful, the way Jack directed it, you know, that's really the big, that's the big job of the director when you're working on a set that large, is to help the audience look at what they need to be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, it was just magical. And I can tell you, putting that show together the first time we did it was such an experience. Mm-hmm. And I remember I said to Jack one day, I went like, you know, I'll tell you what this Schicchi cast needs is it needs a dinner. It needs a dinner. We need to sit down as a family and eat. Mm. And so we had one of my colleagues, Bernard Fitch. In fact, we went up to Yonkers. I loaded a bunch of people into my minivan and everybody else took cabs. And up to Yonkers to this tiny Italian restaurant that he knew. And we sat at this really long table and all just talked and ate and drank wine and told jokes. And by the end of the dinner, we were a family.
Absolutely.
And it made a huge difference to the way we worked on stage together. It was a great, great experience. Really
wonderful
great.
Story. Yeah. We'll have to remember that this spring when you come, because once again, the Schicchi absolutely has to feel like a family, that all the dynamics that you have in that tension of a family, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And what was wonderful for me is that actually he wasn't my first, I'm embarrassed to say, when I was 19 and I did Zita in college, it was my very first opera. I was 19 years old my freshman year, and I auditioned for the opera. Never thought I would get in, and I was in it. And we sang it in English. Mm-hmm. And I cannot remember who our Schicchi is. I apologize. But my first professional Schicchi, of course, was Corbelli.
Oh my gosh.
What a masterclass.
Wow.
Sing, and I just adore him. We got to do Daughter of the Regiment together as well.
You talk about what singers, how we are all sort of a combination of everything that we take in. That kind of experience really affects you as a singer for the rest of your life, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So you will be singing in two of the three. We will be performing Suor Angelica and Gianni Schicchi.
Yes.
You'll be singing Principessa, which is the role that you always sing, and it's a tour for you because it's a powerful role, I will say. The presence is a very powerful presence.
She is a very tough lady. And
Yeah.
I can tell you she's one of the only, no, that's not true. I tend to become an apologist for characters that are less than savory, that people attack and say, oh, what a terrible person.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even want to call Fricka a harpy to my face. You will get such a diatribe. But the Principessa is a very hard character to make excuses for. She's real tough.
Yeah.
So I've constructed a whole backstory for her, and it makes it much easier for me to sing her.
Oh, very interesting. I can't wait to hear more about that. Now, instead of singing Zita, something that I know is going to make a lot of news, which I'm excited about. Not necessarily because it's newsworthy, but I'm excited about it because I'm excited about it. And you'll be singing the role of Gianni Schicchi.
Yes.
So how did this come to you? Because it was your idea.
It came to me because I had just been doing Schicchi, and I have really enjoyed singing in that opera enormously. But I thought to myself, I think this is probably my last Zita. Only because sometimes there are roles that you've done so much that you just, you have to put it away for a little while, because it's just, you know. And I did a lot of listening to Schicchi, to the role, because it was Placido Domingo singing Schicchi. And he's the reason I became an opera singer. And so I just spent a lot of time listening very intently to the singing. And I found myself singing with him all the time. And after the show was over, I was just talking with a couple of my friends, and I thought, you know, wouldn't it be interesting to play Schicchi as a woman, and to make her Gianna Schicchi and have her be a mother? And joking about that, and I actually joked about it for a moment with Yannick Nigui-Sagan, and then I was doing more of my drag work, and I really enjoy utilizing that. Sorry, dog. I really enjoy utilizing that part of my voice, and as I've gotten older, my voice has gotten lower. I mean, really lower. Like, C below middle C is a perfectly happy place for me to be.
Wow. So you are a baritone.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I am. Yeah. It's kind of shocking. And but I enjoy it very much. I enjoy singing down there. And then I spent time singing the role in my octave. And the role was just sounds better in the lower octave. And I think, well, if I'm going to be singing in the lower octave, I should play it as a man. And to be honest with you, I've been doing a lot of work with gender play in my work and in my teaching. And I had just I had been thinking a lot about this because we did a piece of devised theater at Bard this year. And what we did was we created an opera from 5 operas. And I told my students, I said, look, we're going to choose 5 operas. So they chose Giovanni, Carmen, Ariadne of Naxos, The Tender Land, and Boheme. And I told them they could choose any role, regardless of voice type or gender, and any aria. And I told them that the conceit of this piece was that 14 opera characters were going to a funeral for opera.
It's brilliant.
And so what we did was they chose the aria. So I have a brilliant group of singers. We have a magnificent young countertenor who sang the role of Mercedes and ended up singing Habanera. We had a magnificent young baritone who wanted to be Donna Evita and sang Mi Tradi, which we transposed down a third, full orchestra, and they sang the most glorious Mi Tradi. It was wonderful. We had a wonderful contralto who wanted to play the role of the commendatore, but sang Vecchia Zimara. And that was the end of the first act, holding opera's will in his hand, placing it in the coffin and singing Vecchia Zimara.
Brilliant.
It was wonderful. And they created the story. They wrote dialogue that was the connective tissue between the scenes. I added a few ensembles. We had the most magnificent time. And that's just a smattering.
Yeah.
You know, we also had a magnificent Musetta and a wonderful Mimi, and it was a fantastic Harlequin. We had wonderful characters, but they created the story. And the whole idea of the piece was that opera died to itself so that it becomes self-determined characters. Now, I had been thinking about this kind of gender play for Schicchi for a while, and watching this happen and working on this with them really gelled it for me. And I thought, you know, this is a character role, and I can be this character. And it is about playing a human being. And I recognize that some people won't be into it. But I also think there will be a lot of people that might actually really be into it, and also that might see this piece in a new way. And that's what's important to me, that every time I do something, I feel it and see it in a new way, and the audience does too.
It's fantastic.
Otherwise, opera becomes rote.
Yeah.
We don't rote, you know.
Well, you know, I think we always have to try to find, even if we're doing the most standard production and a very traditional cast, we have to find new ways to bring new life and new breath.
Absolutely.
To anything we do. Otherwise, why do it, frankly? And that this is just a wonderful opportunity. And, you know, so the idea came to me, you know, you communicated with Dominic Domingo, who works for us and helps us with casting as an artistic advisor now. And he brought the idea to me, and I thought, okay, it's very interesting. I want to make sure that it's not gimmicky in any way, but because it came from you, as opposed to me or a director saying to you, I knew that it would be authentic. And I knew that it would be coming from the right kind of motivation. So I just turned my thinking around very quickly and said, absolutely, great idea.
Well, I'm David, I am unbelievably grateful to you and grateful to Dominic for, you know, allowing an artist to think outside the box.
Yeah.
I had a really beautiful conversation with our director, Paul Curran, about it as well, who is totally on board.
Fabulous man.
I'm so excited about it. I have been waiting to work with Paul Curran for years. I'm so excited this is our first project together. I think that, you know, your comment about it not being gimmicky is number one for me, because whenever I come to something, I always recognize that I'm playing a character. And I have to honor that. You know, I have to go back to this conversation I was just having with these high school students. When I started working with John Jarboe in the Bearded Ladies Cabaret 3 years ago, one of the things I learned from John is that before we start any project, we make a list of our values. What do I want to communicate with this piece? And what are the most important things for me to be keeping in mind? And the first value I always put down is honor the form first. That no matter what I do in cabaret, if it's going to be funny or I'm sending something up, I have to honor it first. I have to pay respect, and I have to respect the ancestor. I have an enormous amount of respect for this piece and for the amazing men that I have performed it with and I have watched perform it.
Mhm.
And I want to honor this role by singing it the best way that I can, and by performing and being an authentic character.
Yes.
You know, Kiki is not a great guy, you know?
No Principessa, but
No. Hey, we forgive him a lot because he's funny. I
right.
think if Principessa got a couple of gags, it'd be fine. Everyone was okay. But you know, he gets away with a lot because he's charming and he's funny.
Mm.
But more than anything, he's clever
Mm-hmm.
and manipulative. And he loves his daughter.
Mm.
And you don't have to be a man to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I know a heck of a lot of clever women.
I was going to say, I think I'm talking to one right now.
Not, you know, what I am finding more than anything in this whole is that gender. I have found something. I have found a deeper connection with myself since I started doing my work in drag. And it's interesting because it's connecting to a performer and a man that I have had in me for a long time.
Mm.
And I know that may sound silly,
Mm.
but as an artist, I am constantly having to find myself in an extraordinary number of different human beings,
Mm.
including men. And I have to, you know, you're not you what's that fabulous line from Victor Victoria about, you know, what makes a man? Peeing standing up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Scotty says, well, nobody says you don't. On the other hand, nobody says you can't sit down.
Right.
It is
right.
we are human beings
Right.
that inhabit these bodies. We are human beings.
You know, there's a song that if you don't know, you should know,
Yeah.
by a singer named Dar Williams. Do you know Dar Williams?
No.
Dar Williams is a kind of folk, beautiful guitar player. And he has a song called When I Was a Boy. And you should hear this song because the whole experience of it is a girl who was a tomboy and then becomes over time shamed to close off that part of herself. And she meets a man who touches that, she explains it to, and he says, no, I completely understand, because when I was a girl as a child, and I cried and my mother connected with, but I had to put it away too. Yeah. It's a very interesting story. So we do all have that side of us, all of us do.
Absolutely. When I was a kid, I was always Steve Austin. My sister got to be Jamie Summers, but I was Steve Austin. The $6 million man, for those of you who don't know. The Bionic, the $6 million man. I had to be the $6 million man. But there is something that is so freeing and wonderful. And my experience with the drag community and with the cabaret community has made me a better opera singer. It's made me a better recitalist. It's made me a better artist, because there's a humanity that exists there that is really extraordinary. And I think one of the reasons that I started doing drag was I was working with my friend Martha Graham-Cracker. We were doing a show together for Opera Philadelphia. And we did this show that was basically about a man and a woman who were in love with one another from afar. But the only way that they could break through was to break the fourth wall. I was the opera singer. She was the cabaret singer. And I was mired by the fourth wall. And it was the audience that brought us together. Now, listen, that is what we need. In opera, that's what we need. I think we need to break the fourth wall now. It's time.
Yep.
It's time to look at our audiences. It's time to get close to them. It's time to be intimate with them and to help them find themselves in the piece. That has to be the number one goal.
Perfectly said. Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. I'm so grateful for you taking this time and also for bringing what you're going to be bringing to San Diego.
Thank you.
as a parting comment, this will be something we'll share with our audiences. Is there anything you'd like to say about how audiences can be helpful?
I think that as we as artists are asked a lot right now, what we miss most about being with an audience, what we miss most about our work because of COVID. And I will tell you that almost every single artist that I've talked to says the same thing. I miss the live experience. I miss the audience. I miss being with the audience. And that is the number one thing that our communities can do to support art, is that when we are safe, when we are safe to be live, let's live together.
Beautiful.
Let's be live together.
Yeah.
And to purchase a ticket for a live event, for a live opera, will be the best way that you can support art. That's what I think we need to do. Let's come together and be live together.
I couldn't think of a better way for us to wind up this conversation. So beautifully said, and beautiful, beautiful sentiment. So thank you. Looking so forward to having you with us next year, and be safe, remain safe.
And wear your mask.
Absolutely. Stephanie, thank you so much.
Thanks, David.
All right, ciao.